You ever get that feeling that you have to be loud just to be heard? That the world is kind of built for the talkers, the life of the party types, and if you're a bit quieter, you're seen as, well, a disappointment? Okay, let's really dive into this, because here's the deal. About a third, maybe even up to half of us are introverts, and we're living in a world that, a lot of the time, just totally misunderstands and undervalues a core part of who we are.
This quote from Susan Cain's research it really nails the issue, doesn't it? It suggests that being an introvert isn't a flaw, not at all. It's a trait that our culture has somehow managed to turn into a second-class status. And that's a powerful idea, right? That we've built this kind of oppressive standard that so many of us feel like we have to conform to just to get by.
So let's put a name to this thing. The problem has a name. It's called the extrovert ideal, and you can think of it as this invisible force that's shaping our schools, our workplaces, and even the way we see each other every single day. So what is the extrovert ideal exactly? Well, it's this really deep-seated, almost invisible belief that the best way to be is outgoing, assertive, alpha. It's the standard we measure everyone against, from the classroom all the way up to the boardroom. And it's so ingrained in our culture that most of the time, we don't even notice it's there. And this isn't just a vibe or a feeling. This stuff is backed by actual research. Studies show that we automatically link being talkative with all of these positive qualities. We even think people who talk fast are more competent. But here's the kicker. There is literally zero correlation between being a smooth talker and actually having good ideas. Zero.
But here's the thing. It wasn't always like this. To really get how we got here, we've got to rewind about 100 years. There was this dramatic cultural shift that kind of set us on this whole path.
And this slide just perfectly illustrates that shift. America basically went from what was called a culture of character, where what mattered were things like integrity and honor, your private virtues, to a culture of personality, where the goal was to be seen as magnetic and fascinating. It was a huge shift from valuing who you are on the inside to valuing how you perform for everyone on the outside. The story of Dale Carnegie is the perfect way to understand this. As America urbanized, people all of a sudden had to sell themselves to total strangers. Carnegie, who was this shy kid himself, figured out how to master public speaking and then taught millions how to do it. And by the 1950s, this idea was so everywhere that even schools thought it was their job to fix the quiet kids. Now, this move from character to personality, it had massive consequences, especially for our idea of what makes a good leader. So let's take a look at how this extrovert ideal actually plays out in some of our most powerful institutions. Okay, take Harvard Business School. It's basically a place where speaking up isn't just a good idea, it's a huge part of your grade. The entire environment is built around this idea that leaders are vocal, they're assertive, they're constantly on. Being talkative gets mistaken for being competent. To see this in action, HBS uses this famous role-playing game. So picture this. Your plane has just crashed in the middle of nowhere, in the subarctic. You've got 15 items you managed to salvage. Now, as a group, you have to rank them in order of importance for survival. The whole point is to teach group synergy. But it often goes horribly wrong. The most talkative students just take over the conversation. They sound super confident, so their ideas get followed even when they're really bad ideas. Meanwhile, the quieter students, the ones who actually know which items are most important, the ones that would keep everyone alive, they get completely shut down. The group fails. And here it is. This is the devastating takeaway from a student who actually went through this exercise. It just perfectly captures the danger of the extrovert ideal. We end up following the loudest voice in the room, not the wisest one. And sometimes that can have disastrous consequences. Okay, but what if we've been valuing the wrong things this whole time? Let's totally flip the script here and explore the hidden strengths, the superpowers that introverts are bringing to the table. This quote pretty much says it all, right? The greatest creations of the human mind, whether it's in science or art, they almost always come from solitude and deep concentration. The very things introverts are naturally drawn to. It is so important to get that these traits aren't weaknesses, they're strengths. Introverts are amazing listeners, they're deliberate thinkers, and because they're less sensitive to risk, they can be much more cautious and effective leaders, especially when things are uncertain. They bring depth and focus to a world that's often obsessed with superficiality. And we've got the data to prove it. In a famous study of over 600 computer programmers, the absolute top performers all had one thing in common: privacy.
A whopping 62% of them said their workspace was private enough, compared to only 19% of the worst performers. It's simple. Solitude can breed excellence. So, what does all of this mean for us? Why does any of this matter? Well, it's about creating a world where all types of people can actually thrive and contribute their best work. It's about balance. Now, vocal leadership has its moments, for sure. But this comparison shows the unique strengths of a quieter style. It's more cautious, it welcomes nuance, and it empowers other people to take the lead. In the complex world we live in, we desperately need this kind of thoughtful leadership to balance out the act first, think later style that we reward so often. The solution isn't to get rid of extroverts, of course not. It's about finding a better balance. And that means we need to rethink everything, from those wide-open office plans to the constant demand for group projects in our schools. We have to create space for quiet, for independent thought, and critically, for listening. So I'll just leave you with this final thought. While human connection, love, is essential, our world's obsession with being constantly outgoing is not. It's optional. So the next time you're in a meeting or a classroom, look for the quietest person in the room and just ask yourself, what incredible world-changing idea are we missing out on simply because we haven't created this space to hear it?